Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Let's take you now to election news. The IEC says it is ready to ensure that voting goes smoothly in the 111 foreign missions. This as South Africans living abroad are scheduled to kick off the voting process of the 2024 national and provincial elections this Friday and Saturday. SABC News reporter Natasha Phiri has more for us.
Well, a very good afternoon to you and to our SABC viewers. The IEC had actually earlier briefed us and briefed the members of the media about the preparations to the polls. But of course, those South Africans voting overseas, you would remember that in 2019 you had 29,300 odd South Africans that actually voted in those 120 voting stations overseas. But this time around you have 76,000 South Africans voting in 111 voting stations overseas. And of course this will take place this Friday and this Saturday. And just an important one, there'll be one ballot paper for those South Africans that will be voting overseas, as well as those South Africans in the country that have applied for Section 24A, meaning that on voting day they won't be at their voting station but will be somewhere else. And of course those South Africans will be given one ballot. But to talk to us more about this, we're joined by the DCEO of the IEC, Mr. Mawethu Mosery. Mr. Mosery, thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. So it's quite a high number. I think this is for the first time in the history of South Africa where we have 67,000 South Africans voting overseas, as compared to 2019 where you had over 29,000.
Indeed, it's a very high number. It's the first time that we have over 70,000 South Africans out of country participating in this election, and certainly encouraged by the registration in our London mission, where we have over 24,000 who are registered there. But there's been a very good response by all South Africans voting out of country.
And you've also indicated that the ballots will be, when the ballots come this side, I mean, they'll be highly guarded by security or law enforcement agencies as well.
Certainly, throughout the logistics process of our elections, we ensure that it is secure, and we work with various state security apparatus to ensure that we protect this election. And whether we move ballots out of the country or return them from out of country voting back to the country, they'll be secure. Within the country to the 23,000 voting stations, they'll remain secured throughout. So we are conducting a highly secure process of managing our logistics around the ballots.
Okay. Mr. Mosery, another important issue that Mr. Mamabolo had mentioned, he had said that there's now going to be a 50% burden increase of counting ballots due to the 3 ballot papers that South Africans will have. So you'll be introducing counting officers. Just explain that concept to us, please.
Basically, we are recruiting a batch of about 3 people per voting station for all voting stations in the country, who are people we are directing to arrive at the voting station in the late afternoon, early evening, to focus on managing the counting process together with the presiding officers and other staff. We are mindful that the people at the voting station would have worked on the 2 days before the 29th, so levels of fatigue may be creeping in when they start the count at about 9 p.m. On voting day. Hence the introduction of fresh minds and fresh eyes to assist with the count. So that's primarily that. Secondly, we are obviously looking at people with good numeracy experience, skills, training, so that they are able to assist with that particular count and the reconciliation that must be done at the voting station. It is all about improving the quality of the results process at counting, at completion of the results slip, and the transmission of the results slip.
Okay, you've also introduced the universal ballot template, and this is to help people living with disabilities as well as the elderly, partially sighted, and those who really can't read well.
Well, obviously, for various other health conditions, body conditions, physical conditions, some people do not have steady hand. So to mark your X within the prescribed box on the ballot, you might just allow your pen to go all over, which then will make your ballot to be spoiled. Now, to assist in those occasions, the UPT is the best tool for that. That's why we are saying it's not only for the blind, partially blind, it's also for such people who may have those conditions. It has Braille numbers, and it fits the two types of ballots that we have. The double column ballot has a UPT of its own, and the single column ballots have a UPT of their own, and both of them would be at the voting station.
Okay, and just lastly, moving to the issue of the courts, you've indicated that the constitutional court, issue has no bearing. Whether the Con Court rules that the electoral court heard, it has no bearing on the ballot paper.
Maybe let's approach it in a much more simpler way by saying the face on the ballot paper of a party leader is that which is in our register as the commission. And currently, the leader of the MK party on our register is Mr. Zuma. So his face is on the ballot paper on behalf of the MK party. So there would be no change there. Secondly, the leader of the party and a person being a candidate to go to parliament are two distinct and separate things. Being a leader of the party, you don't have to qualify to go to the legislature. You will be a leader of the party and you will have your face on the ballot paper. But actually going to the legislature, you must meet the requirements.